All right, we're back, and it's COMP2068. We're just beginning a recording here. It's week 10, lesson 10, part 1 in our broadcast. I also do a recording that I upload later on for better quality. All right, so you might see both broadcast and recording. The recording means I'm using another tool, and I just upload later. As you can hear from my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather this day, right? So I sound like like I'm broken. It's okay. I didn't spend too many hours playing Fallout, not too many hours, okay? But, it is what it is. Just enough. I was up to 3 in the morning last night, but not on Fallout. It was just doing different things. I noticed a lot of people submitted really, really late, like in 2:30, 3 o'clock, all kinds of people. So, and the people that, of course, I don't see in class today, probably half of them are people that submitted at 2:30 in the morning, right? So, which is totally cool. Okay, so what are we talking about today? I want to start off by talking about our final team project today, right? Because I think we need to talk about that finally. I'm going to introduce the other assignment 3 next week, right? Which is a little bit behind, but only because Angular is going to be an option for your final team project. So let's talk about this for a second. So again, part 1, which is your project concept, first draft of external document and initial project structure setup, that's due December 2nd of 2015. And let me just put that up so you guys can see what I'm seeing. And of course, it's going to mess me up. Okay, maybe it didn't mess me up. Yeah, so it's going to be due December 2nd of 2015 at midnight. So that's a couple weeks from now, actually, believe it or not, right? And we're into December, guys. I can't believe it. So that's the Wednesday, and what I want from there is the concept of your project, what the project is, who you're working with, all that kind of stuff, kind of the first draft of your external document. And then part 2 is due on December 16th. So that's the second part. So what are you building? So working in a group of up to 3 members, I've expanded it to 3, right? Or on your own. Utilizing your accumulated knowledge of the main stack, that's MongoDB, Express, Node, with AngularJS as an option, right? So it's optional to include Angular. And in the first class, they asked me, like, why is it optional? Well, we're just kind of learning about it now, and you're building out a project that's due 4 weeks from now. It's going to be challenging for some of you and possible for others, because depending on your level of skill, right, with this whole stack, right? So that's why I'm making it optional. So there's 3 options that I kind of put into here. Plus, you can always make one of your own if you're not happy with one of these options. So we'll talk about these. So you can do a survey site, which I guess, like I said, is the easier of the options, survey site. Brackets tournament site would be the second level, like in terms of difficulty, if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more. And then there's insanity. If you want to be insane. And by the way, for the incident management piece, like I said earlier in the other class, I will allow 4 people to work together. That's how insane it is. How do I build these out? I'll tell you right now. Survey site, it's about 60 hours to do it right, okay? Don't attempt these at all on your own if you can, right? If you can work with somebody else, that's why it's something that you're supposed to build with somebody else. It's a team project. It's not a solo project. If you want to do it on your own, if you really want to challenge yourself, just do the survey site by yourself. That's a good enough challenge right there, right? You could probably cut it down without working with somebody else, because when you work with somebody else, there's a bit of overhead, right? Meetings, aligning with them in terms of time frame and all that stuff. So you probably save some hours. So you probably can knock it off in between 40 and 50 hours, right? If you're working on your own, right? But there's a lot of little requirements involved, testing and so on, and working on your own is more challenging in general than working with somebody else on this stuff. But some people have no choice because they're loners. They don't like working with other people, or they don't know anybody, or they don't trust anybody. There's different reasons, right? So survey site definitely is the one you'd be targeting if you're working on alone. Brackets tournament web app, like I said, it's a little bit more, but the incident management one is insane. So if you really want to challenge yourself and have a little portfolio piece to add, then incident management, that one is kind of the way you want to go. I'm amazed. Some people in the first class said, I want to do it. I want to do like my incident management piece. I'm like, okay. That's like an 80-hour project, okay? So there's different options here. And when I say 80 hours, I'm broad stroking it here, right? Like you could do it faster. You could do it a little bit slower than that, right? But I'll tell you, there's some piece parts to it that'll make you, it'll make your head spin. All right, so your web app must be hosted on a live site that supports a node server somewhere, whether it's like you know, Heroku or Azure or DigitalOcean or whatever. Choose one. Okay. So what are you building? So there's some common requirements that are involved with every app that I want you to build, even if you propose one of your own, right? So some of the common requirements would be your web app must be designed using well-structured semantic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So there's a whole site structure set of marks. There's 10 marks for a site structure. It's got to be responsive. So you got to use something like Bootstrap or Foundation or something to make your site responsive, right? I'm talking about from a responsive web design perspective, right? CSS got to reside in the separate files. A lot of this is taken care of if you use a scaffold. And one of the questions I got earlier today is, what if I use a scaffold? Is that okay? Like if I use Yeoman to kind of put together a scaffold for my application, right? We'll talk about Yeoman in another week or so. Yes, it's okay if you want to use the Express generator to make your kind of template. But I'll tell you, sometimes making your stuff from scratch is a lot easier because you need to understand the scaffold. If I give you a scaffold and you get all this stuff and you don't know where anything is, that's going to take time just to absorb that, right? So that's just extra research time involved on that side. So, you know, some of this is going to be taken care of, and this is some easier marks to get in terms of site structure. Images and multimedia being contained in their own folder. All your code is error-free. There's some marks for that as well. Your MongoDB database must be hosted online somewhere. And note, it is recommended that you use a provider like MongoLab, Google Platform, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and blah, blah, blah for that, or build your own VM, right? Somewhere, like with DigitalOcean. Another requirement is internal documentation. So document your code header for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, section headers for all your HTML structure and CSS style sections and so on. Ensure all your code is contextual variable names, like you don't use A's and B's, you know, and I's and J's for your loops. That would be bad, right? Ensure you include inline comments where it makes sense, but don't over-comment, right? So that's the same thing we've seen before. Now there's an external document requirement for you, which you may have chosen to do as an elective in assignment number 1. Like you could have chosen as an option to do an external document with some stuff. I'm making it a requirement for your final, all right? So especially when you work with somebody else, it's almost like your manifest of how you work together, right? So you need to put together some kind of company logo. And I mean it, if you're working with 3 people, it just could be their like initials. So it's like John, Mark, and Tom, as an example, right? JMT, Inc., you know, whatever, with a circle around it. There's your logo. You know, something to kind of talk about who you guys are. Don't make some weird, like, you know, we're brown squirrels, and you know, we're, you know, for whatever reason, make some kind of weird name. Try to make it as professional as possible. Table of contents, a detailed description of your web app, including its core functionality. What does it do? And this is pieces where people don't understand. A wireframe section. What is a wireframe section? You actually physically draw out what your page is going to look like with like literally boxes. You can use paint. You can use a napkin. I would accept that too. Take a picture of a napkin. This is what your page, this is what your site looks like. By the way, I've had submissions like that before, right, with your wireframes, right? Because people do that. They go to an actual customer site and they have a napkin or some kind of paper and they draw out what their, you know, their different templates are going to look like. I want some wireframes for each of your templates, like maybe one wireframe to describe your landing page, another one for your contact page, another one for other kind of pages. If there's, let's say, some kind of list view page that lists a bunch of stuff. So there should be some wireframes for that. Those pieces right there, company logo, table of contents, detailed description of your stuff, and wireframes are the things that are going to be required for December 2nd, okay? Because you can't do screen capturing because you don't have a working app, right, yet. You just have some idea, a plan of what your app's going to look like, right? And then for the final, for December 16th, that's the Wednesday before our exam, right, you need to screen capture some stuff and maybe add another section that says, here's my potential future functionality. And remember, I don't want to hear about future functionality until you've taken care of your minimum viable product. Minimum viable product, which means that's the MVP, right? That means like I want to have this product. I met your requirements, Tom, and now I'm adding functionality, features to it. So please don't add features because you couldn't do one of the requirements. That would be bad, right? Get your requirements done, then add features. Because if you don't get your requirements done, it's like you haven't met the customer's requirements. That would be a fail, guys. It's not a good thing. Oh yeah, Mr. Customer, I couldn't do your database, but I really added this really cool animation, right? Doesn't make any sense. So make sure it works for what you're doing. Share your files on GitHub and to demonstrate version control, and put yourself on a cloud host somewhere. That's all the core requirements for every app that you're going to build. These ones here. Okay, now here's some app-specific requirements. If you're building the survey site option, right, then you need to have user management and site security. And by the way, I've put these user management and site security in every one of the apps you're going to build, but they're slightly different according to the app. So if you're on this survey site, then you need to have you can log in, log out, modify your profile, that kind of stuff. Site security is going to block you from going to secure sites for your survey, and so I put some specific areas that are more specific for the survey or the incident management site or whatever, right? So it's very similar. You still get around the same marks, but you need to have every site that you build has to have security authentication built in. Okay, for the survey, users can create a survey after user registrations or you log in, register and log in. You can create a survey based on 1 or 2 possible survey templates. Please don't make it so that it's completely open. All right, like SurveyMonkey. You're not redoing SurveyMonkey, right? That's like crazy. You won't finish in time, right? Make 1 or 2 templates. Make it so it's multiple choice. That's all you can do, right? So, and limit the questions. 10 questions. Not like I want to choose 3, 5, or 100, right? Like I've had stuff. People have added things in that are just crazy, like extra features. This is not for me is a prototype. Okay, you have an idea for a web app you're going to use with the mean stack. You're going to give me the prototype. So it's going to be a working prototype. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's there. There's going to be some things you can't hit that you want to do because there's no time for it, even with 2 guys working with you. All right, because everyone has other things other than this course, right? We got other courses. And if this is the only course for you, yeah, sure, I would make it so that you have to hit all the targets, but it's not the only course. Again, you can customize your survey questions because that makes sense. Users can actually choose one of those 10 questions and make them their own, right? And the users should be able to create a lifeline or lifetime for the survey so that it expires, right? So survey is active, and if it's after the certain time frame, it's expired. Right. So how do you get? That's kind of one of the key functionalities that people have trouble with. They don't know how to make it so that when you access something, if it's beyond a certain time, you can't see it anymore. It's not that difficult if you think about it from a Mongo perspective, how you would program that in. Okay, number 3, anonymous users can respond to any active survey. So you don't have to be logged in to respond. If it's an active survey, you show all your active surveys on the page, and then you can respond to them. Survey response will be stored in the database for later use. So how would you do that? Because you're doing some CRUD and you're an anonymous user, right? Well, you'd be logged in as an anonymous user, and anonymous users would be able to answer the survey, to go through those pages, but they couldn't create a survey and they couldn't do other things, right? So you have to differentiate what's the difference between an anonymous user, automatically logged in, or a person who's logged in and registered. What can they do, right? There's going to be a secure reporting section where a registered user can go in and show his own data for his own surveys, the number of respondents, that's all I want, and survey answer statistics. How many times did someone answer yes on question 1 for this survey, as an example? Some simple stats. And for the AA, the statistics from each survey can be exported in some way, email, printed, to Excel or something, right? PDF. This is for the AA. So this is the extra piece that some people can't get. That's it for the survey. So that's kind of it for what I want you to do. It sounds like it's complex, but really, if you think about the requirements, they're low. I just put lots of details in there so you know what I'm looking for, and also where the marks are, right? Let's take a look at turning brackets. First of all, what is a turning bracket site? So there's a site that you can go to. It's called, to give you an example of that, is called Challenge. For Challenge, as an example, I've already logged in. I can create a tournament. I've already, I might have other ones here that I've created, right? Like rock, paper, scissors, whatever. Here's the COMP2068 hackathon. I made one of those too. let's make another one. Let's make a tournament. So I'm going to make one, you know, as an example that we're going to name, and it gives you its own, like your own little thing. So let's say we're going to make some kind of hackathon for a professor. So professor hackathon, Right, that's the name. And if you notice over here, I can choose to see if there's a random URL, or I can try and do that. So professor hackathon, right? And I'm going to make it so that it is a single stage tournament, right? Very simple, with single elimination, right? I'm also going to include a match for third place, and I'm going to provide a list of participants, right? I could have a start time if I want to specify one, as an example. And if I go save and continue, it's going to be ready to go, right? In order for me to start my single elimination challenge, like brackets, I have to start adding in usernames. So let's say, for example, I add in Tom, right? I add in Ross, because we're going to compete, right? Maybe there's another guy, Jarrett. No capitals, eh? Because, you know, I'm too lazy for capitals. And then there's I don't know, Rich, and you know we'll throw in Andrew too, just because Andrew is someone we have to compete with, right? Okay, so we got these things here, and you know, I want to start the survey. How does it go? So after I've done this piece, I can shuffle the seeds, so I can make it so that it's random pairings, right? This is what this thing does. Okay, do I expect you, you know, to do it like this? No, I'm showing you an actual site you can go to, check it out, and see what you can get from it, because it's already existing, right? So let's take a look at the brackets that it generates. Well, here's an example of that, right? So I have Jarrett and Tom, we're fighting first, and then the winner of us is going to fight Andrew, right? And then Andrew and whoever's going to fight, and they're going to get a position, and then, you know, Ross and Rich, they're going to fight, and whoever's going to, you know, come out, they're going to fight the winner of, you know, Andrew and somebody else, right? And there's also this bronze match for third place, right? So this is like a tourney brackets thing that you can do. It's free to sign up and everything else. People use it for like things like CS:GO, you know, like a competition between two teams of people, where you have like instead of names, you have teams. So team A and team B, and then how many teams can win and so on. Now, if you notice that each of these brackets, if you will, is generated by the participants. Okay, so again, you see the difficulty level just went up. It went from like survey site to a bracket site that does something, right? Okay. Not undoable, however. Right, so let's take a look at some of these requirements. User registration makes sense, right? Create a new tournament. That's one thing that you need to do. After a user is registered and logged in, he or she can create a new single elimination tournament. Notice how I didn't say double elimination. Not available, right? Once you start getting into that, you just have no time. It's just extra work, right? Remember, proof of concept. When the user creates a tournament, he is considered the owner and can choose when it becomes active and when it's completed, right? Users can register players. Users can register players by completing a form that includes several player name fields. A fixed number of players will be allowed to be registered. I suggest 8 or 16. See, I put in 5, like, you know, and now you notice how there was a buy, right, for people who understand tournaments, right? Andrew doesn't have to fight anybody. She's automatically in the semifinals, just by chance. She got a bye randomly, right? If I had more people involved, then Andrew wouldn't have gotten a bye. She would have to compete with somebody. If I had another person in here, right? There would be 2 buys, right? Because you want to go with 8 or 16 as easy, kind of an easy number. If you go with other odd numbers, if you make the guy or whoever's accessing your site have any number of people come in, that'll be more complex. So please limit it to 8 or 16. Something that makes sense for you, right? If you're going to do this one. Less calculations. It's not about being perfect. It's about proof of concept right now. Like I said, minimum viable product to prove that you can do this kind of stuff. An active tournament will display a list of players to anonymous users, right? And depending on the number of players, there will be a fixed number of tournament bouts. Again, initially, 4 bouts for 8 players, 8 bouts for 16 players, and so on. Opponent selection for each bout will be decided in player registration order. So notice I didn't put random order, right? Those are all bonuses. Get this done first, your requirements, and then add features. I added a random order for my player registration. You get bonus marks for that, right? Tournament management. A tournament can be started only after all players have been registered and the initial bout determined. A tournament will include a fixed number of rounds, depending on how many players are registered, 3 rounds for 8 players, 4 rounds for 16 players, and so on. Each tournament round will be displayed as a separate form page. So notice how here, this round here, I have a round for Jarrett and Tom, round 1. Then there's the semifinals, right? And it's kind of displayed in this big format, like one big round. I'm saying 1 round, 1 page. Nice and easy, right? Because if you have, like, normally if you notice the semifinals would really be a round. That's how it would normally look if you had even numbers, right? The tournament owner will be able to select the winners for each bout in every round. So he won, she won, they won, whatever. By deciding. I mean, it's not going to be decided randomly, right? Please don't make random decisions of who won, right? Because in real life, if 2 people are fighting each other, there's going to be a winner, and you're going to mark that person, right? Only the winners will be carried forward into new bouts for each successive round. So rules, these are just business rules for how the bouts work, right? And when the final round is completed, a summary of the results will be displayed. That's it for tournament. So it's not that difficult. It's just kind of the display. How do you display each bout? How is that being done? How are you kind of formatting your site? Okay, and now for the hero. If you've got 3 or 4 heroes when it comes to programming, right, and you want to do this incident management piece, here we go, all right? So again, user management and site security. You register, the user will be able to log in, log out, and modify his or her profile. Site security, again, and this is important because prevent non-registered users from creating incident records or tickets. So what is this incident management database thing I speak of, right? It's like you call into help desk and they say, hey, I got a problem, right? And so the help desk guy logs your problem as a ticket, an incident in the database, right? Now, if you don't have that, this might be a good thing. Oh, of course you do, but I'm saying just in case. Imagine if you didn't have it, right? You need to be able to track it somehow, right? So what does it do? It tracks problems. It could be like a problem reporting system. People have said, call it different things. Incident management, ticket management, whatever. But at the end of the day, they call in a report. Something's broken. It's not working. I don't have access to my internet. I don't have access. My computer doesn't work. Doesn't turn on. Whatever, right? And they create a ticket. And then what happens is the customer will call back, and they'll have a incident management narrative, some kind of ticket comments. They go in and say, well, I gave it to John. He's going to fix it now for me. Or D, D's going to be the one. He's my technician. He's going to go and fix the problem for this ticket. And it's recorded in the log, in the narrative, right? So if a customer calls back and says, hey, can you give me status for my problem? Then I say, yeah, D's working on it. And then I'm going to put record in the narrative that they called, and I gave them status, right? And that's what it is. And it's all about managing incidents. So again, after a user is registered and logged in, he or she can view an incident dashboard that will display all open incidents in a clickable list format. Okay, so you see all the list of tickets. You click the list, it opens up the details of the incident. The dashboard will include an option that allows the user to create a new incident ticket. Right, incidents that are closed will be initially hidden, but an option on the dashboard will allow the user to view all incidents. Like for example, if you want to view an old incident that was closed, but maybe it's not completed somehow, or maybe people thought it was closed, but it's not really closed, right? Or maybe it was closed by accident, right? That happens too. So these are all the things that you want to be able to do this with this incident dashboard and more. Create an incident record. So when a new incident is created, something happened, right? That took the business out of kilter, right? For whatever the user calling in. A form will be displayed that will require the user to select or complete several fields, including the incident description, the incident priority, customer information, and incident narrative. So what's this incident about? Give me a short 2 seconds on what this is about. Don't just say something like, it's down. That doesn't make it, because that incident, description, the short description is going to come up in the list. It's down, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's got to be more reasonable. The new record will be stored in a numerical order, right? So, and the incident record number will be generated based on the incident date, automatically generated. So, example 2013, April 18th, incident record number 1, right? This is typically the number provided to the customer as a reference. So your reference number is 1304118-00000001, whatever, right? Each incident record will have a status field associated. Who are awesome programming. This is what they want to do. They want to challenge themselves, put this on their resume as or their portfolio set as something they can show somebody else. This is what I built. This is a really good one to do. And there's more. I'm not going to go read through all of this. If someone's really interested in understanding this piece, if someone wants the incident management piece, please let me know. Right? Again, there's a group from the morning that wanted to do it. And they asked me, can I add a fourth player? Yes, you can. If you do incident management, you can have 4 people as a team. Okay, I would allow that. On that though, please don't partner with anybody who doesn't work. Like if you know the person is just not going to work, right? And you know they can't code whatsoever. As an example, that would be really bad, right? They don't work. They don't show up at school. I mean, someone asked me, you know, why don't I pair people together? Why don't I put you guys all together in a row, right? Well, if I put you with them, you know, as an example, then they might say, well, you're not working. I'm just saying, right? And then it's on me because I put you guys together, right? So I'm not going to do that. You guys put yourself together. You partner. I recommend you partner with somebody or 1 or 2 other people at least to do this. So that way you can get this done and it's easy for you to do it. It'll alleviate the pressure, right? If you do it with somebody else. If you do it on your own, it's tough. Even the survey site will be hard for you to finish on your own. It's a brand new site. Any questions around this stuff? There's also the rubric of where the marks are broken out. So again, for the first part 1 of this thing is due on Wednesday, December the 2nd at midnight, right? Now, if you're going to build something custom, that's not one of these site survey, brackets or incident management, you got to let me know by next week, okay? So that way I can discuss it with you a little bit and kind of take you off the brink of destruction a little bit, because some people will write themselves into a corner, they'll write themselves into the abyss, and they'll never finish, right? Please don't wait till week 12 if you know that you want to do your own thing, right? Talk to me about it and come up with a proposal. Say, you know what, I want to use the same structure, Tom, as I've got here, right? Like I want to do this. These common requirements you have to do. That's required, right? You can't get away from those. But I'm looking at the survey site, how you broke out the marks, and I noticed that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections here, and I want to kind of spread out my marks and these 4 things that I'm going to produce, these 4 deliverables for my app. Would you agree to this app as opposed to the survey site? Because this is what I want to build from my portfolio. I might probably say yes to it if you're detailed enough, right? So please talk to me about it next week. Okay, don't wait till like week 12. That'll be bad, right? I'll just say no in week 12. I'll say no. You know, that time has passed. You have to let me know. You should have let me know week 11, right? And don't change your mind, eh? Don't tell me you're going to do something like in week 12 and then week 13 somehow now you're doing something else, right? That would be very bad. So if you don't think you can do 100% to do the incident management site, don't tell me you're doing incident management in week 12 and then by week 13 say, you know what, we're scrapping that. So you can't do it. We've tried it. It's impossible. You're right? I'm telling you it's hard, right? So please believe what I'm telling you, right? You know, I'm trying to give you 3 levels of challenge for yourself. Okay. So the first part's due in 2 weeks, and then the next part's due 2 weeks later at the end of semester. Any questions around this? It's all up on Blackboard for you right now, right? And it's broken out into those 2 sections. So I think it's 24 marks out of 60 for the first submission, which is 10%. And then it's 36 marks out of 60 for the final submission, which is out of 15%, for a total of 25% of your final grade. This should not be one that you want to not do because it can knock you right down. If you're doing really, really well and you just don't submit this, it'll kill you and it'll probably kill your friends too, right? So don't do that. Please start working on this early. Start deciding who your partners are going to be. And I would highly recommend not to work alone. Do not work alone on this one if you can avoid it. Again, I've built this out at about 40 hours to 60 hours for the survey site. And again, if you think about 60 hours divided by 3 people, 20 hours a person, 5 hours a week, right? Not so much homework stuff. 5 hours a week isn't undoable. It's still tough because it's a project, right? And where the extra overhead comes into play is one of those hours probably going to be a meeting hour, stupidly, right? Because you have to meet with your group, or maybe 2 hours those meetings, right? You have to meet with them and program and get things together. Working with GitHub and all that kind of stuff. Remember, I also want your stuff to be trackable on GitHub. So if whatever the contribution of, let's say you have 3 members in your team, 1, 2, 3, and team member number 1 does the coding. Team number 2 does the the visuals, the views, and team number 3 does all the models and the schemas, and he also takes care of, or she also takes care of the documentation requirements, right? All that stuff should be tracked on GitHub. Who's doing what, that kind of thing. Okay. So this is it in a nutshell for assignment, the final project. That we're going to be, I'm expecting you to do for the end. Again, one thing to note also is there's going to be an additional assignment. We're into assignment 2 right now. You should have submitted it last night, right, at midnight, worst case. I know I saw people submitting it at 3 o'clock in the morning too, because I was there at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Not playing games. I swear, I wasn't playing Fallout. I was just, I was online, actually doing work, right? Because that's what I do. But this other assignment that I'll give you is kind of a week-long assignment. It'll be just on Angular. It will not include Express, right? Because there's just too many piece parts to it. And I want you to learn Angular. And there's also a thing that I want to talk to you about Angular and Code School, which we're going to kind of do the first piece of together here in class. Okay? So any other questions or comments about final project? All right, this is a great place to stop for me for this piece. I'm going to save this video so you guys can see all the details about the final project in this video, and then I'll make another recording. Okay, so bear with me while I shift gears.